King of the UK as he strips his brother Andrew of all titles, including Prince. Buckingham Palace said in a statement that the king started the process to remove the style, titles, and honors of his younger brother.
Royal tensions seem to be reaching a new peak. Reports suggest that Prince Andrew has stormed into London after King Charles decided to cut off his financial support. For years, the Duke of York has relied heavily on royal funding to maintain his lifestyle. But that may now be changing. Many are wondering what triggered such a bold decision from the king and how Andrew truly reacted behind closed doors. Could this be the final breaking point between the brothers, or is there more to this royal drama than meets the eye? Join us as we explore why King Charles removed Prince Andrew's financial support. A prince's downfall. Prince Andrew's sudden arrival in London caught everyone's attention. He stepped from a dark car near Buckingham Palace, his expression tense and unreadable. Reports were circulating that King Charles had withdrawn the financial support that had kept his lifestyle afloat for years. The headlines made it sound dramatic, but there is more to this story than just money. Andrew was born in 1960, the third child of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. He entered a family already in the public eye, with Charles and Anne ahead of him. His birth brought excitement to the monarchy, and for years he was known as the Queen's darling. He was charming, confident, and carried the sense of expectation that comes with being a prince. People expected him to shine, and for a while he did. His education followed a path designed by his father, Prince Philip. He attended Gordonstoun, the school known for discipline, long outdoor challenges, and the motto of endurance over ease. Philip believed that hardship built character and wanted all his children to face it. Andrew's teachers described him as lively and spirited, sometimes cheeky, but always aware that he was being watched. Grades were less important than poise, presentation, and the ability to manage elite circles. After Gordonstoun, he entered the Royal Naval College at Dartmouth. It was a family tradition, but also a chance to prove himself. During the Falklands War in 1982, he flew helicopters on missions that were genuinely dangerous. For a time, he was seen as a young prince who did more than wave at ceremonies. He went to war, and the public admired him for it. His naval career continued after the conflict, rising to the rank of commander, and later taking honorary positions connected to the Navy. These roles were both a mark of service and a symbol of status. They opened doors to patronages, charity work, and public engagements that reinforced his royal image. Those titles and roles shaped public perception and helped him maintain a place in the royal structure. Financially, Andrew got help from different sources. The sovereign grant funded official duties. Private allowances from the monarch helped cover personal costs. Military pensions, inherited wealth, and trusts added to these sources. They paid for staff, travel, events, and the kind of lifestyle that keeps a royal image polished. His home, the Royal Lodge in Windsor, was part of this network. The Royal Lodge is a large property on Crown Estate land, technically owned by the state but leased to senior royals. Andrew had a 75-year lease signed in the early 2000s, paying a large sum up front. Still, the maintenance, staff, and security were largely covered by royal allowances. This is what people mean by financial support. It is not just cash in a bank account. It is an entire system built to sustain a prince publicly and privately. In his early years, Andrew fitted neatly into this structure. He was the charming war hero, the Queen's favorite, and a prince actively involved in patronages, technology groups, youth organizations, and military roles all reflected his presence and influence. Yet the same system that carried him also created dependence. Losing access to it, as now reported with his return to London, represents the slow unraveling of the structure that defined his life. Prince Andrew's life took a sudden and very public turn in 2019. His friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, which had been reported before, suddenly became a focus of scrutiny. Their paths first crossed in the 1990s in social circles that mixed philanthropy, business, and high society. Over the years, Andrew attended private dinners and trips with Epstein, and reports later confirmed flights and visits that tied him to Epstein, even after the financier had been convicted of serious crimes. By the time the public learned the full extent of the connection, Andrew's image was already at risk. Everything changed on November 16, 2019, with the BBC Newsnight interview. Emma Maitlis, the presenter, had spent weeks preparing to confront Andrew directly about his associations and to clarify key allegations. From the start, the atmosphere felt tense. Andrew appeared rigid, his movements controlled, and his expressions often blank. The interview drew attention for his explanations. When questioned about allegations of misconduct, his answers sounded rehearsed. One of the lines that dominated headlines was his claim that he could not sweat due to a medical condition at the time. The comment drew confusion, disbelief, and ridicule. People debated every gesture and statement. The public reaction was unforgiving. The palace responded with caution. Buckingham Palace issued a statement confirming that Andrew would step back from public duties. The wording was careful and deliberate. It did not suggest guilt, but it acknowledged the damage to public perception and the risk to the monarchy. The Queen's decision showed how she tried to balance family loyalty with her duty to the crown. The phrase, "step back from public duties," signaled a suspension without defining how long it might last. It preserved Andrew's role in the family while protecting the monarchy from further reputational harm. Outside the royal family, Andrew's social and professional networks began to fall apart. Organizations and charities with which he held patronages started cutting ties. Universities and foundations returned honors and canceled events. Businesses pulled out of formal connections. The early signals of institutional distancing were unmistakable. For many organizations, it was a practical move to avoid public criticism. Andrew, once surrounded by support and opportunity, was now increasingly isolated. The Newsnight interview also reshaped public perception almost immediately. Polling conducted in the weeks after the broadcast showed a dramatic drop in approval. Media coverage framed the story not simply as a personal failing, but as a sign of a royal family struggling to manage scandal. Commentators noted that the interview had done more than damage Andrew's reputation, it had rewritten it. A prince who had been seen as confident and charming now seemed disconnected, defensive, and out of step with public expectations. Analysts pointed out that this was a rare example of how a single program could redefine a public figure overnight. By the end of 2019, Andrew's position had changed, and in no small way. As we're about to reveal next, the events surrounding Epstein, the interview, and the palace's careful distancing set the stage for legal battles that would follow. Scandal, settlement, and stripped titles. The story of Prince Andrew's public and legal struggles continued in the United States with the civil case brought by Virginia Giuffre. She alleged that Andrew had assaulted her when she was a minor, a claim he consistently denied. The case, filed in New York, was formally titled Giuffre versus Prince Andrew. Court documents show a series of filings detailing her claims, Andrew's denials, and the complex negotiations that followed. Legal observers noted that the case was unusual for a member of a royal family, not only because of the nature of the allegations, but because of the public attention. It attracted lawyers for both sides moved carefully, aware that every motion, deposition, and letter would be dissected in the press. The matter reached a turning point in February 2022. Prince Andrew and Giuffre agreed to an out-of-court settlement. The announcement, made publicly, confirmed that the settlement was reached without any admission of liability on Andrew's part. The formal dismissal language specified that the case was resolved, but it left many details confidential. Neither the amount paid nor the specific arrangements were fully disclosed, a standard feature in civil settlements. The lack of clarity raised public curiosity. Observers debated what had been agreed upon, and media outlets reported cautiously, noting that settlements often shield the most sensitive elements from view while leaving reputational damage intact. Even after the settlement, the consequences for Andrew were much. Within months, he lost remaining military patronages and honorary positions, a careful choice made under legal and public pressure. Investigations and disclosures continued, and although no new charges were brought, the scrutiny never fully disappeared. Public perception remained negative, with critics emphasizing that the settlement resolved the lawsuit legally, but did not restore trust. Analysts describe the settlement as an example of how legal resolution and reputational repair are not always aligned. Andrew's name continued to appear in headlines whenever new details came up, ensuring that his association with the case remained a central part of his public identity. Extracts from Virginia Giuffre's memoirs, released around 2025, brought new perspectives and reinforced the impact of the allegations on Andrew's reputation. It is important to understand the limits of public records in cases like this. Civil settlements often seal details that could expose sensitive financial arrangements, personal communications, or specifics of behavior. Courts may protect information to encourage resolution, and journalists can report only what is legally accessible. Yet even partial information can feed speculation, shape narratives, and influence public perception. In Andrew's case, what was not disclosed often became as important as what was. Media reports revealed every nuance that emerged, creating a narrative that, while incomplete legally, was fully formed in the public imagination. With the legal battle behind him, the next challenge was no less daunting. Losing financial support meant Andrew now had to face the practical realities of royal life on his own, and that brought him directly to questions of residence, security, and the logistics of downsizing a household like Royal Lodge. The property, set in Windsor Great Park, had a long history of royal occupancy and came with complex legal arrangements. The lease was a Crown estate agreement, held in a sense by the state but assigned to senior royals under long-term terms. Andrew had enjoyed the use of the house for decades, but those privileges came with strings attached. When King Charles decided to withdraw financial support, the palace made it clear that maintaining the lodge under the existing lease would no longer be feasible. Andrew faced the prospect of surrendering his lease, a move that carried weight. Now, running a property like Royal Lodge was far from simple. Maintenance alone demanded a team of staff, including gardeners, housekeepers, and grounds personnel. Estimates suggest that keeping the property operational could cost hundreds of thousands of pounds annually, not including heating, repairs, or upkeep of its historical features. Security added another expense. Andrew's residence required a permanent protective detail, and when the palace withdrew funding, those costs became his responsibility. The combination of staff, maintenance, and security created a financial burden that few could manage without substantial support. For Andrew, losing access to allowances meant he suddenly confronted the true scale of those expenses. Security had always been a central concern at Royal Lodge. The state provided official police protection for senior royals, but the prince's private security team came from separate funding channels. Reports revealed that with the withdrawal of royal financial support, payments for private security ceased. That left him to negotiate protection independently or rely solely on the state-provided details, which carried limitations for a high-profile, controversial figure. Managing this shift required careful planning, not only for safety, but also to preserve discretion. The palace, aware of the public attention, watched closely while Andrew adapted to the new arrangements. Andrew's next setback came with a formal announcement from Buckingham Palace. On October 30, 2025, The palace issued a statement initiating the process to remove his royal style, titles, and honors. The language was precise and deliberate. It laid out the official decision and explained how it would be enforced. By November 3rd, the legal instruments were in place. Letters patent were issued, and the Crown Office published the notice in the Gazette. The documents removed both the HRH styling and the use of the word Prince for Andrew. The phrasing made clear what these measures did and did not do. In Andrew's case, the move stripped him of public-facing royal privileges and responsibilities. It also meant that all formal records, from honors lists to official correspondence, would reflect the change. In history, royal title changes have been rare, usually tied to a prince marrying without permission or giving up honors by choice. What made Andrew's case stand out was the mix of legal authority, public pressure, and personal issues. The move was a big deal for the monarchy. It showed that even a senior royal could lose status if their actions put the crown's reputation or operations at risk. While the legal process wasn't new, the context was. For Andrew, the shift was both symbolic and practical. He stopped receiving invitations to official events, and his role in ceremonies was clearly cut back. By early November 2025, his position as a public royal had been reduced in both legal status and public appearance. This shift opened the door to a new chapter: life without royal support, and the financial reality of losing allowances, the sovereign grant, and relying on private funds. A prince's financial fall, from allowance to uncertainty. After losing his royal style and honors, Andrew had to face the reality of life without the support that had carried him for decades. His financial situation suddenly became much clearer. To start, the sovereign grant is the main source of public money for the monarchy. It pays for official duties, staff salaries, travel, and the upkeep of royal residences. It does not cover personal spending, private security, or non-official projects. For Andrew, stepping back from public duties meant the public could no longer justify funding his lifestyle. Reports suggested that Andrew received a private allowance of around £1 million a year. Some biographies and news stories said King Charles personally ordered cuts to this money. The palace never confirmed these amounts, but the claims circulated widely. This money likely included public-linked funds and private allowances tied to his official duties. Losing it would force him to rethink everything from his home staff to day-to-day living expenses. Even after stepping back, reports on Andrew's finances remain mixed. Some sources mentioned a six-figure relocation payment and a smaller ongoing stipend. Others said all support stopped. On top of this, Andrew has access to private money. Family trusts, inherited wealth, and loans make up part of his financial safety net. Exact amounts are unclear. Investigative reporting has traced some of these resources over the years, including trusts and arrangements meant to cover homes, staff, and other living costs. Andrew also has other ways to earn money, but options are limited. Pensions from his military service and old positions provide some support. Investments, business work, or speaking fees could help, but his public image makes high-profile opportunities difficult. The prestige that once opened doors is now reduced. That means smaller-scale investments or quiet private work may be the most realistic ways to earn income going forward. All of this shows the clear change that Andrew no longer has the same financial and institutional support. He must balance personal resources against the costs of staff, security, and living in a way that matches his profile. Conflicting reports and the unclear details of his private money make the situation even harder. His business ventures became a reflection of how much his role had changed. One of the most high-profile initiatives was Pitch at Palace. He founded it to support entrepreneurs and showcase business ideas around the world. At first, it attracted attention and praise, offering mentoring, networking, and access to funding. The program ran events globally, including in the United States, the Middle East, and China. However, After 2019, following the Epstein revelations and the Newsnight interview, activity slowed. The public controversy and legal battles forced a pause, and by 2025 filings show moves to formally dissolve Pitchett Palace Global and related companies. Corporate records now list transfers, dissolutions, and directors stepping down, signaling the practical end of Andrew's involvement. China connections drew particular attention. Reports highlighted invitations to Pitchett Palace events for Chinese businessmen, including figures like Yang Tengbo. Some media coverage raised concerns about influence, and later UK restrictions banned certain participants from involvement. While Andrew consistently denied wrongdoing, the scrutiny made these events politically sensitive. Critics argued that, even without illegal activity, the perception of risk and the complexity of international relations made continuation of Pitchett Palace impossible. For Andrew, these concerns added to the pressure as he tried to maintain a business profile while under public and institutional scrutiny. Meanwhile, patronages and military roles formally ended in 2022. Organizations that had once relied on Andrew as a figurehead or ambassador returned honors and canceled events. Charities and military institutions removed him from leadership roles, often citing reputational considerations. The loss of these positions reinforced his gradual retreat from public life. What had once been a network of influence and visibility became a series of formal disconnections, each reinforcing the story of a prince transitioning to a more private existence. Corporate filings tell another part of the story. Recent accounts show dwindling assets for Andrew-controlled entities. Companies House and The Times reporting illustrate the transfers of ownership, director resignations, and eventual dissolutions. These steps show both legal need and real-life pressure. Without royal support, it was hard to keep his international business going. Money coming in slowed down, projects stopped, and some partners pulled away to protect their image. The filings clearly show someone closing down work that once had royal influence. The end of these businesses feeds directly into the narrative of Andrew as a private citizen. Without the institutional umbrella, every action, every partnership, and every financial move now exists under public scrutiny. The loss of patronages and formal roles leaves him outside the framework that once allowed royals to operate globally without question. For employees, partners, and organizations tied to his ventures, the risk of association became a real consideration. Even projects designed to be socially beneficial now had to navigate both reputational and practical challenges. In effect, dissolving these businesses marked the closure of his working royal business model. By 2025, Andrew's public initiatives were largely gone. What remained was a combination of private life, residual wealth, and a few personal connections. The winding down of Pitchett Palace and other ventures marked both a legal and symbolic shift. He was no longer operating with the privileges and protections of a senior royal. The stage was set for the final chapters of this transformation, including the personal and public adjustments that came with complete withdrawal from formal royal life. These changes naturally lead to how Andrew manages his social, family, and personal world under intense scrutiny. What we know with certainty comes from official documents and verifiable filings. Buckingham Palace statements laid out the decisions on his role and support. Beyond this core record, there are areas that remain uncertain. Media reports, biographies, and investigative articles have cited figures for private allowances, relocation payouts, or ongoing stipends. These numbers are never confirmed by the palace and remain reported but unverified. Similarly, internal family arrangements, discretionary funds, or private security contracts are not publicly accessible. We can confirm what sources report, but these uncertainties are part of the story, shaping both perception and Andrew's day-to-day reality without being provable. There are also signals that viewers and observers can watch for in the months ahead. Companies' house closure notices will confirm the final dissolutions of remaining Andrew-related entities. Updates from charity trustees or regulatory inquiries may also reveal further adjustments to his formal affiliations. Police or government regulatory actions, if any, would add additional oversight. These are the concrete signs to monitor that could confirm or clarify how Andrew's life continues to change outside the framework of senior royal duties. Institutionally, removing a prince's style and title has broader implications. The precedent is important for the monarchy as a whole. Future cases may reference Andrew's situation when discussing how titles, styles, and associated responsibilities are granted or withdrawn. Taken together, the narrative around Andrew's financial support and public role is complex. Headlines claim that financial support was removed, but the reality is different. Some reporting suggests outright cuts, while other accounts describe one-off payouts or modest ongoing stipends. What is certain is the official record. His royal style and title are gone, business ventures have been dissolved, and the legal case with Giuffre has been resolved. That combination establishes the provable truth of his current position. In the end, the record confirms a clear transformation. Andrew is no longer a working royal with the privileges, responsibilities, and resources of a senior family member. What do you think? Could the monarchy have handled Prince Andrew's situation differently? And what does this tell us about the limits of royal privilege in today's world? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear them. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the following video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.